Joining us today are presenters Susan Mason, Head of External Affairs, Office of the Legislative and Public Affairs, National Science Foundation; Kim Nelson, Public Affairs Specialist, Office of Legislative and Public Affairs, National Science Foundation; Ellen House, Director, Academic and Student Affairs, American Association of Community Colleges; and Ken Laria, ATE Project Coordinator, American Association of Community Colleges. Next, we'd like to introduce Susan to take over the presentation.
Congratulations, everybody. I'm so happy that you won the competition and that you actually just took part this year. As most of you know, this is the first time we've done the Community College Challenge, and we're really excited about the entries we received and with partnering with the American Association of Community Colleges. So you've come out of this challenge so far, and we want to talk to you a little bit about what's going to happen today on the web. We plan to shed some light on what's to come at our boot camp and how you need to prepare. In this webinar, we'll cover our expectations, the basic layout of the boot camp, including what to expect at the Capitol Hill reception, and some logistics items. Then you'll have a chance to ask any questions. Now, Kim, would you like to talk about the winning team?
Sure. Thanks so much, Susan. Hi, everyone. This is Kim speaking. I just want to second Susan in saying congratulations to everybody. As the primary challenge manager, I'm asked to witness your innovations advance from the preliminary round up to this stage. I've thoroughly enjoyed reading your written entries and watching your videos. You all went through a very competitive process to get here, and you should all be very proud of yourselves to have arrived at this point. I think we ended up with a really high caliber group of innovations in a variety of different areas. So on these two slides, you'll see all of the winning teams who you'll be meeting in June. Our 10 teams come from 9 different institutions in 9 different U.S. states. So that said, I'm very excited to learn much more about your innovations and to meet you all in person. And I'm sure you're all equally as excited to learn more about what your fellow winning colleagues have crafted. So at this time, I'd like to give the floor to Ellen to give you an overview of the boot camp.
Great. Thank you, Susan and Kim. I'd also like to echo their congratulations and offer ours on behalf of the American Association of Community Colleges, or AACC, on your selection as winning teams for the Community College Innovation Challenge. We're thrilled to be partnering with NSF on this boot camp and to have the opportunity to work with all of you. For those of you who may not be familiar with AACC, we are the primary advocacy organization for the nation's community colleges, and we promote community colleges through 5 strategic action areas, including recognition and advocacy, student access, learning and success, community college leadership, economic and workforce development, and global and intercultural education. So again, on behalf of AACC, welcome and congratulations. We look forward to working with you and meeting you in June. And before I get started on the overview, we wanted to get a sense of how many of you may be participating on this webinar with some of your colleagues. So if you're participating on the webinar with one or more of your team members, could you enter your college name in the chat box and the number of people attending with you? So for example, if you are a team watching from Tulsa Community College, could you enter Tulsa Community College and 5? I'm just taking a guess. There are 5 of you from Tulsa. There may be more. All right, so I do see it. We do have quite a few teams, a couple of teams that are, oh, hey, I had a good guess, that are watching together. Wonderful. And it's good to know that you're watching together, and feel free at any point to type in questions to the chat box. We will address those on designated question breaks, but again, type them in as they come to you. And then our very last question break at the very end of the webinar, we're going to actually try addressing questions through microphones. So if you would like to voice a question, you can raise your hand by clicking that on the toolbar, and at the very last question break at the end of the webinar, we can actually call on folks and have you voice a question to the group. But in the interim, please put those questions into chat, and we look forward to addressing them. Okay, on to a little bit of the overview here. We'd like to just give you a little bit of the what, where, when, who, and why, and then go into some detail. So for the what, the boot camp is designed to provide a hands-on learning and technical assistance opportunity and venue for you, the 10 winning teams, to test, validate, and further develop your ideas. And we'll be doing that by helping you to focus on building innovation, entrepreneurship, and strategic communication skills. So where and when this event will primarily be held at the National Science Foundation in Arlington, Virginia, June 15 through 18. There will also be an opening reception and session held at the Holiday Inn, which is just down the street from NSF, and where we are providing lodging hotel accommodations for the teams, and a display and reception held on Capitol Hill. So we'll go over the schedule of events and talk further about those two things shortly. Who attends? So all of the community college student teams and their faculty mentors are required to attend. And we also encourage your community and or industry partners to attend, though their participation is optional. We've also assembled presenters and experts specializing in entrepreneurship, innovation, and strategic communication to deliver the boot camp content. And we'll talk about who those partners are in a little bit. And NSF program staff and AACC program staff will also be in attendance at the boot camp. And in many cases, NSF program staff will be volunteering and working closely with you through some various exercises and hands-on activities that have been designed for the event. So now, the why attend, aside from being required to do so, I'd actually like to turn back to Susan at NSF to talk to you a little bit about why you should attend, and also give you some more information on boot camp content, expectations, and to talk about the partners we've assembled to deliver the agenda.
Okay, at the boot camp, you will network, interact with experts, and receive coaching, mentoring, and guidance during the sessions and activities that will help you further validate, refine, develop, and potentially implement your novel solutions to real-world problems. The boot camp is designed to provide a hands-on learning opportunity to further develop your ideas with a focus on building innovation, entrepreneurship, and strategic communication skills. We believe this boot camp offers a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to receive free, expert advice that's intended to give you a leg up for your future. Plus, you'll get to meet stakeholders on Capitol Hill, interact with NSF and ACC staff, and most importantly, we hope you're going to have a lot of fun in the nation's capital. Now I'm going to turn it over to Kim so she could kind of give you a day-to-day what you will be doing at boot camp.
Thanks, Susan. So on this slide, you'll all see a very basic framework for what your days will look like at the boot camp. So Monday will be your travel day. All team members should arrive to the hotel by 6 p.m. for an opening reception where we'll meet each other, have some food, and listen to some speakers. Tuesday will be our first full day, and we'll start sharp at 8 a.m. Throughout the day, you'll do a variety of things, including giving initial team presentations that will be recorded so you can later go back and watch yourself. You'll attend interactive sessions led by a team of experts who will examine your project and coach you on how to signal the value of your innovation. You'll also participate in an interview role play in an effort to practice conducting customer or audience discovery interviews to get a feel for who your target audience is to pitch your innovation to and what needs and wants they have. We'll spend most of Wednesday applying what you practiced in your Tuesday interview role play by participating in customer and audience discovery interviews with real NSF program officers and other outside experts. You'll then have time to practice and do a dry run where you'll get some coaching for when you exhibit on Capitol Hill later that day. Thursday, we'll focus on some other aspects of entrepreneurism, and we'll conclude with a final pitch and a closing ceremony. So as far as our expectations go, we expect you to return to your institutions after the boot camp more empowered, with a refined skill set, and armed with the proper tools to pursue any next steps with your innovation or with any future innovation you craft. So I want to hand it off to Susan now to talk about our content partners, or those quote-unquote experts as we've been referring to them.
I'm really excited about the team we've put together. They're very energetic. They're excited to meet you. They've all looked over your innovations, and I can't wait to be here. We've got really a qualified, dynamic, and most importantly, entertaining group of session leaders from the various sessions of the boot camp. Edmund Pendleton is director of the DC I-Corps Inventor Accelerator. And I-Corps, for those of you who don't know, is really kind of a set of activities and programs that prepare scientists and engineers to extend their focus beyond the laboratory and broadens the impact of select NSF-funded basic research projects. And this project is really dynamic and has helped a lot of scientists and engineers further their ideas. Next will be Dan Agan and Joe Schreiber from Ninja Communications. And I've been working with Dan and Joe for about the last 8 years, going around the country doing communication workshops for scientists and engineers. It's an exciting group. I think you'll learn a lot from them. We also have someone with us named Chris Wong, and he's a Presidential Innovation Fellow, and he's a crowdsourcing expert, and he's from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. And from what Chris tells me, he's going to bring along several of his colleagues, so you're going to meet some pretty exciting people. I just did, too, want to bring up just one other point. Due to the high caliber of entries, we have reworked our initial advertised plan for the first, second, and third place winners and the distribution of prize money. So you're going to need to really be patient with us. Final details of how this will all work will be announced at the boot camp, and we'll keep you posted with other changes we make along the way. And now I want to go back to Ellen to see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Susan. If folks have any questions, as said, go ahead and enter them into chat. I do have one question for Kim. You mentioned in talking about the content that portions of what the teams would be doing would be recorded. Do you have any more information on what exactly that means, and if we'd have access to those recordings to work from them or learn from them?
Yeah, thanks, Ellen. Absolutely. So it's just basically a practice of recording you in front of a camera, and then we'd give you those files immediately after or by the end of the day, and put them on a flash drive so you guys can take them and review them and improve from them.
Great, thank you. We also have a question on what is appropriate dress attire. I know we're going to cover that a little bit later in the webinar, but Ken, did you just want to give a little bit highlight on that now, and maybe we can just kind of briefly gloss over it at the end?
Sure, and as Ellen just said, we're going to go over that a little bit later in the webinar. But conference attire for the opening reception on Monday evening, casual attire is suggested. We all understand that after a day of travel, the last thing you all want to do is to change into something formal. Throughout the week at NSF, for the various boot camp agenda items, business casual is suggested. And then for the Capitol Hill display and reception, business attire is suggested.
Thank you, Ken. I do have another question that I will direct to Susan or to Kim. Is the final round of judging based on the reception on Capitol Hill on the Wednesday of the conference? They're wanting to know, is the final round of judging based on the display reception at Capitol Hill?
No, we're actually coming up with a kind of different plan, so it will not be, that will be part of it, but it won't be all of it.
Okay, thank you. And then another question, how many entries did you receive this year for the overall challenge?
We received quite a few entries from many colleges around, community colleges around the country, and we're really pleased with the 10 winners that we got.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm actually going to turn the webinar over to Ken now. We're going to give you a little overview of registration, hotel, and travel, and an opportunity to ask questions on some of the logistical sides of the boot camp. Ken?
Thank you, Ellen. In this section, we're going to go over information regarding registration, hotel, and travel. This information was previously sent to the teams and is also available on the event website. However, we would still like to take a few minutes to go over it here and give you, the participants, an opportunity to ask any questions. Registration for the boot camp is required for all students and faculty mentors of the 10 winning teams. There are no registration fees for participants. However, we do require you to sign up to attend. Attendance for community and industry partners is optional, and though they are not required to attend, we welcome and encourage them to do so. Like the student and faculty team members, there are no registration fees for their participation. To register, please go to the event website, which is listed on the bottom of this slide, and complete the team registration and hotel reservation form by the deadline of May 8th. I also want to share a quick note on the model and photo release form so you will know what to expect when on site. When you pick up your name badge and registration materials at the boot camp, you will be asked to sign a photo release form. We will be taking pictures at the event so NSF and AACC can promote the Innovation Challenge and your accomplishments. So if you have any questions or issues regarding the photo release form, you can certainly let me know ahead of time or talk with me when we're all on site. Lodging for the winning teams will be held at the Holiday Inn Arlington at Ballston, which is located 3 blocks from the National Science Foundation, or about a 7-minute walk. Please note that AACC will make hotel reservations for all boot camp participants, so please don't make your own reservations. When filling out the team registration and hotel reservation form, we ask that you indicate your arrival and departure dates and any room preferences, including if you plan on sharing a room. Please note that you are not required to share a room, but if you would like to do so, please indicate that on the form, so that we can ensure your room has 2 beds and that all participants have been taken care of. Hotel costs for student team members and faculty mentors will be covered for up to 4 nights, respectively June 15th through 18th. Rooms for these nights will be billed to AACC's master account, which means they will not show up on your hotel bill. However, you will be required to present a credit card upon check-in to cover any incidental expenses incurred during your stay, such as phone charges or room service. We also want to make you aware that if you plan on giving the hotel a debit card to cover incidentals instead of a credit card, the Holiday Inn will place a $35 hold fee on your debit card at the time of check-in, and then credit that amount back to you upon checkout if no incidental charges occurred. For community and industry partners, AACC will make their hotel reservations, but they will be responsible for providing a credit card upon check-in to cover the cost of their hotel stay at the rate of $189 per night plus tax. If any participants would like to come early or stay late to tour Washington, D.C., you may do so and pay the cost of $189 per night plus tax for any additional room nights outside of the June 15th through 18th dates. The hotel will honor this rate for 3 nights before and 3 nights after the boot camp and is subject to availability at the hotel. AACC will send hotel confirmations to each attendee once hotel reservations are made by mid-May. If you need to make any changes to your hotel reservation, including substitutions or cancellations, please contact me directly instead of the hotel, as all hotel changes, substitutions, and/or cancellations need to be sent through AACC. All participants are responsible for making their own travel arrangements. AACC will support the cost of travel for student team members and faculty mentors, while community and industry partners are responsible for covering their own travel expenses. AACC will reimburse round-trip travel expenses for each of the student team members and faculty mentors up to a maximum of $1,000. Please note that AACC will pay for participant hotel accommodations separately, so the maximum amount of the $1,000 can be used to cover the cost of airfare and other reimbursable travel expenses such as ground transportation. Now at this time, I'd like to direct you to the left-hand side of the screen to the hand icon below your name. And by a show of hands, how many of you have already made your travel arrangements? Wow, great to see that some of you have already done so. Thank you very much. Way to stay ahead of the curve. As a reminder, you have two options for making air travel reservations. The first option is contacting AACC's travel agent and booking your flight, which will have the cost of the airfare directly charged to AACC. The second option is booking your flight on your own and submitting your flight expenses to AACC for reimbursement. Please note that all travel arrangements need to be booked at an economy class fare. For your reference, the closest airport to the hotel and NSF is Reagan National Airport, also called DCA, which is accessible via the Washington Metro Rail system. The Holiday Inn Arlington and NSF are also accessible via the Washington Metro Rail system. For information on other airports and detailed information on ground transportation options and transit times from the surrounding area airports, please refer to the event website or contact me directly with any questions. With respect to travel reimbursements, AACC will send out travel reimbursement forms along with hotel confirmations to participants. We will also have the travel reimbursement forms on site at the event. For your reference, other reimbursable expenses in addition to airfare include train or bus fare, parking, mileage, and other items listed on this slide. As rental cars are not typically considered an allowable expense, AACC will not reimburse for rental cars unless you drive instead of fly to the boot camp, and that expense is lower than a comparable economy-based airfare. Please note that you will have to get the expense approved by AACC prior to traveling. AACC will also reimburse for meals not offered as part of the boot camp at rates set by the federal government through the U.S. General Services Administration, the GSA, for the area. You can claim the amounts listed on the slide if those meals are not offered at the event and are incurred as part of your travel. For your reference, the boot camp will offer breakfast and lunch at the event, as well as dinner and a reception. If you have any questions pertaining to travel, please feel free to contact me and/or refer to the event website. Now I believe I'm going to, or if we have any questions.
Yes, hi, Ken. I do have a question in the chat box. Are luggage fees reimbursable? So if I have to pay the $25 fee?
Yes, they are. They are reimbursable. So
yes,
will be reimbursed. I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that yes, luggage fees are reimbursable and fall underneath that $1,000 allotment. So as long as you check your bags and have your receipts, you will be reimbursed for that.
Yes, and our travel expense form that AACC will be sending out will include some instructions with those, and we'll also go over them with you when you check in at the boot camp to make sure you understand how to fill them out. And there's a line where you would put those luggage expenses if you do in fact need to claim them. Ken, one other question for you. You mentioned the Metro Rail system. Is that safe, accessible? Is that something that's okay to use in DC?
Yes, the Metro Rail system is one of the best throughout the nation, and it is very safe and easy to use. I would suggest, even though you are coming in groups, don't travel by yourself though. Always stay within a group, and if you are going anywhere, let your faculty mentor know or let anybody know as well. But the Metro Rail is very safe here.
Great, thank you. And Ken, another question. So if someone is traveling with their spouse to the event, can they use AACC's travel agent to book their travel if they provide their own payment for that additional person?
Yes, so if a participant is going to have a spouse come along with them, they can use AACC's travel agent. The thing is that that respective person would have to be responsible for that additional ticket. So you can use AACC's travel agent, but you would be responsible for any additional charges if you are not the participant.
Great, thank you. And then somebody's asking about extra room nights. If they want to, come early or stay late, how do they communicate that to us?
Please indicate that on the hotel information form, and as long as you let me know, I will relay that information to the hotel directly. So yes, any hotel accommodations would come directly through me. You would just also be aware that you would be responsible for any additional fees outside of the June 15th through 18th dates.
Great, thank you, Ken. Susan and Kim, I have a couple questions I'd want to address to you. We got a question, will there be any representatives of angel or venture capital investors in attendance at the boot camp or participants from universities?
Some of our program officers are participants are from universities, and they're what we call intergovernmental personnel, but no, not per se any universities. There may be some venture capital people depending on what we do with ICOR or how we interact with ICOR.
Okay, thank you. And Susan, I didn't know if you wanted to offer any further clarification on the overall judging framework we're working out for the boot camp.
Yes, I did want to answer that question, and I also wanted to answer the question about how many teams entered this year, because I kind of skirted the issue because I didn't remember. But we had about 75 teams that entered this year. And also what I want to say about the boot camp is that the judging criteria will be based on participation at all levels of the boot camp. So everything you do during boot camp will be part of the judging criteria. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any other questions to that I need to follow up on?
We can monitor. I don't see anybody entering anything at present, but we can, if anybody has any other questions pertaining to judging criteria. And then Susan, thank you for clarifying. There were 75 teams that did apply for the Innovation Challenge. So again, you were in a competitive group to be selected as the 10 winning teams. And if there are any questions pertaining to judging, please enter them in chat, and we will have a final question break where we can also call on you. You can raise your hand at the final question break to ask any further questions. Let me just pop in one right now. Will politicians in attendance be representing anything specific? I'm not sure. Kim or Susan, do you want to attempt to answer that one?
We will be notifying your congressional members from your district and from your state. And so hopefully they will honor you by coming to the reception that evening. But they will not actually have any necessary political position. They're there to congratulate you and to see what you're doing in their district.
Great, thank you. And I see there are some questions that are coming up around the Capitol Hill reception. So I'm actually going to move forward and see if we can't address some of those as we talk a little bit about this, and then we can also address them at the next question break. But this may answer some of what you're talking about. So to talk about the Capitol Hill reception, we first want to say how pleased we are that we're able to host this reception and this display opportunity on Capitol Hill. The reception itself is being sponsored by Congressman David E. Price out of North Carolina. He is a congressman who was very instrumental in starting the Advanced Technological Education, or ATE program, which is run by the National Science Foundation. And this boot camp is actually being funded by an ATE grant through NSF. So Representative Price is very happy, very supportive of the ATE program and student innovation in STEM, so he is sponsoring this reception for us. So he is planning to be in attendance as well as his some of his staffers. Just so you know, the Capitol Hill reception will take place Wednesday, June 17th from 5 to 7:30 in the Gold Room of the Rayburn House office building. And we will be inviting congressional members, STEM leaders, and key congressional staff to meet with you and to learn about your projects. And this is what we hope to be a very exciting opportunity for you to try your hand at communicating to decision makers about your innovation and showing off your great and your innovative work. And we'll also do our best to try to feed you well during the event. So NSF and AACC, we're actually in the process right now of finalizing our online invitation for the Capitol Hill reception, which we will send your way so you can extend the invitation to your institution and to any of your constituents that may be in the Washington, D.C. area. But as Susan said, NSF is actually sending a letter to each of your senators and congressional representatives, alerting them to your selection as challenge winners, and also alerting them to the opportunity to attend the Capitol Hill reception to meet with you and learn firsthand about your projects. So once we do collect RSVPs from this event, we would be happy to share them with you so you know what leaders are expected to attend and to meet with you on Wednesday evening. And as a matter of logistics, AACC will provide a shuttle bus to the Rayburn Building for our participants from the National Science Foundation to go straight to the Rayburn Building, and then the bus will return from there following the reception to the hotel. You will all have access to the room at 4 p.m. for an hour of setup time, with the reception starting at 5. And following the reception, you'll have 45 minutes to take down and pack up your displays. I also want to take a minute to talk about team displays. We do want you to spend some time developing your displays for this event so that they're very visual, hands-on, and interactive. You'll have the opportunity to use some of the skills that we'll be talking about at the boot camp in terms of strategic communication. You'll be able to demonstrate those at the Hill event. But we encourage you to bring models or prototypes to run experiments or have videos that run on a loop so you have a strong visual element to your display. So while there is a poster and graphical element to the display, which we'll talk about shortly, this is really not meant to be a poster session. This is really meant to be more hands-on and to demonstrate any models or working prototypes you might have. And to assist you in developing your display, NSF has issued $500 development grants to each team to provide you with some monies to help you make your displays engaging and innovative. And as a quick note on those display development grants, all the grants have been processed by NSF through the faculty mentors through their individual PayPal accounts. So if you haven't received yours as of yet, please do contact Kim Nelson at NSF for assistance, or send an email to Ken or myself, and we can direct you to Ken to make sure that you're taken care of in that regard. On the slide here, you'll see some example of items that can be covered under the $500 grant. Any slides, videos, or audio elements for your display, construction materials for building interactive models or working prototypes of your solution, signs, photos, or graphics. And by that, those would be the elements that you would mount to a display board that is being provided to you by AACC. And then cost for shipping the displays to AACC in advance of the boot camp. So that's not an exhaustive list, but it is some example of some of the types of things you can use that development grant to procure. In terms of display guidelines and space, we distributed display guidelines to each of the teams and also put that information on the event website. But again, we wanted to go over it here. We don't want to be too redundant, but we want to clarify that for you and make sure that you have the opportunity to ask any questions about this. So AACC will provide a set amount of space, equipment, and materials for the Capitol Hill reception. Just so you get a sense of the room, we're actually in a lovely room on the Hill, very ornate walls. And the display areas will be set on the room's perimeter, and the reception food tables will be in the center of the room. So AACC will provide approximately an 8x10 display and presentation space for each team. This won't be set up like an exhibit hall. There won't be any pipe and drape, but there will be 6-foot draped tables and 2 chairs set up in these space allocations on the room's perimeter. And we will also include an ID sign. We've actually asked you to fill out your display information form with that information. That will have your project team name, your community college, your city and state, and that will be affixed to the front of your table, because we can't mount anything on the walls of this building in the Rayburn building. In addition to that, I mentioned that AACC will supply you with a blank tri-fold foam display board and tacks to mount any display elements that you bring. The display board is 36 by 48 inches, and we have the exact dimensions of the panel on our website and in the display guidelines. And so poster boards will be placed on the tables in the room with tacks and mounting tape and anything you might want to use to affix your graphics or your elements to those boards, and that will be available to you during the setup period. Also wanted to mention audiovisual. ACC will provide access to electricity, so you'll have a power strip at your table if it's needed. We can also supply you with a laptop computer with a 17-inch monitor or a DVD and 24-inch television. So if you are running videos on a loop, so these are items you would just request that you need when you fill out your team's display information form. I do want to make a note about internet. There will not be internet in the reception room, so we ask that you please develop your displays and visuals so they do not rely on an internet connection. Here's an example of some types of display materials that you can bring with you or ship ahead of time to AACC. Again, your graphics, you're going to want some pre-printed graphics to go on these foam core boards at a minimum. We just want something that would communicate either visually or succinctly the team's community problem, some research steps that you've taken to study the problem, and your proposed community solution to the problem. As we mentioned before, bring models or prototypes. You can include tools, software, or props that are needed to set up your display or conduct any element of your presentation. Again, video, slides, photographs, or computer-generated images. So any photos that are brought need to be mounted on that 36 by 48 foam core board. And if you're using videos, slides, or any other computer-generated graphics display, we ask that you prepare them to be no more than 3 minutes in length and that they play on a continuous loop. Since this will be in a reception format and folks will be coming to your tables, as if during a reception format, so you have something that's playing on a loop for folks to see. Let's see. A quick note on student original work. So all display and presentation elements must be the original work of the student team. However, you can certainly use your college logos or any official college images are acceptable to use for displays. It's really that the work, the actual solution that you've proposed is the work of the student teams. I also want to talk about security procedures on Capitol Hill. We're going to ask that you fill out the display information form and detail what you'll be bringing with you or shipping to AACC ahead of the event, so we can work directly with the team on Capitol Hill to ensure your displays make it through their security protocol. So if you plan on bringing any of your own materials to the DC area, they're going to need to fit in a small backpack or a briefcase to go through the standard security entrance of the Rayborn building to be inspected. So if you're physically bringing that on your person, it needs to fit through their conveyor belt and be x-rayed. If your display elements are any larger than an average sized backpack, they actually need to be shipped to AACC ahead of time. So we can coordinate bringing them in through the loading dock, having them screened for security and placed at your table in time for setup. So when you walk into the room at 4 p.m. on Wednesday evening, your table will be set, any AV you've requested will be there, and your materials will be there to unpack and to assemble prior to starting the reception at 5. So a note on shipping: if you're planning to ship to AACC, you'd send us the materials to arrive by Friday, June 5th. We ask that you use a carrier that you can track to ensure delivery. And again, you can use your $500 display development grant to cover those shipping costs. And following the reception, participants will be responsible for repacking their materials and leaving them with AACC, and we will cover the cost and make the arrangements to ship them back to you. So again, on your display and information form, you would indicate if you are shipping materials to AACC and a return address where we would ship those materials to you, and we will also work with you directly to make sure we have your details and we're all set on site so we know what's labeled and where it's going. I think that is all I had on team displays. I see there are a number of questions. I'm actually going to turn to Ken. We have just a few more slides, and then we can address all of these questions in our final question break. Ken, I know we've covered attire, but did you want to talk a few more about some of these other boot camp questions that might come up?
Yes, and thank you, Ellen. Yes, we briefly discussed on conference attire, and I'll just go over that real quick again. For the opening reception on Monday, casual attire is suggested. Throughout the week, we would suggest that business casual attire. And then for the Capitol Hill display and reception, business attire is suggested. And as we've noted, the Capitol Hill reception will take place on Wednesday, June 17th, with a 1-hour setup period starting at 4 p.m. The buses will leave directly from the boot camp at NSF, so there will be no time to change before leaving, which means you want to attend the boot camp on Wednesday in business attire so that you're ready to present on Capitol Hill that evening. The Holiday Inn will provide a complimentary shuttle bus that will leave once in the morning and return once in the afternoon between the hotel and NSF. The shuttle bus schedule is currently under development and will be provided on the boot camp agenda once it is available. You are also welcome to walk to NSF from the hotel, as it is an easy 7-minute walk between the two. We also wanted to make you aware that as part of our evaluation of the Community College Innovation Challenge Boot Camp, NSF will issue a pre-event survey and a post-event survey to gauge your experience and impact of the boot camp on you and your proposed projects. The first survey will be forthcoming before the event, and we thank you in advance for your time and feedback in responding to these very important surveys. I'd like to now turn the presentation over to Kim to talk about some resources for the boot camp. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thanks, Ken. Okay, so here are some optional resources you may wish to check out prior to the boot camp. Again, you are not required to view videos or download these chapters of books, but you may find it helpful to do so to get a feel for the vocabulary and the methods that will be used at the boot camp. So all resources are already posted to AACC's website, where you all can directly access these links. If you choose to take a look at some of these resources, you may notice that they're very business focused, which may throw some of you off, as some of your innovations are process change based and not an actual tangible product. Please don't let this confuse you. These resources still apply to you, and it might help to replace the word customer with the word stakeholder or audience when you're reading through these. Okay, so now I'm going to hand it off to Ellen to talk about some important deadlines.
Thanks, Kim. I think we've mentioned this throughout, but the important deadline is Friday, May 8th, where we're asking each individual participant to turn in their team meeting and hotel reservation form. So again, this is where you would register for the conference and also indicate your hotel reservation needs. If you're coming early, staying late, you indicate that on your form as well, because we'll make your reservation through that form. And then for the display information form, we only need one of these per team. So communicate with your team members and your faculty mentor, and only one of you need to submit the display information form on behalf of your team. And from there, let's see, we are going to our final question break, and I see that there are a number of questions in chat. So I want to address some of these, and then I will actually open up the microphone and see if folks want to address any questions by voice. So, oh wait, that got moved. Let's see. So I know there was a question on dimensions, what we mean by 8 by 10. We're not talking about 10 feet tall. We're talking about, it could be 8 feet wide and you have 10 feet kind of in length. So if you want to move the table out from the wall, and if there's something you have standing behind you, so you have a sense of dimension that way. Are you responsible for designing and constructing our front of table display? No, the identification signs, we actually ask on the display information form for you to submit your college name and your project team. We will be designing those signs so they're uniform for everyone. And then I think there was another aspect to that. And then, are you allowed to attach a poster to the trifold poster board? We're actually only doing one poster board for teams, so we're asking you to use just the one board for display purposes. Because we're trying to have this not be so much a focus on the poster, but on some other visual elements. Let's see, what other questions? Will shipping costs for display table items like a microscope be paid for out of the $500 PayPal accounts? Yes, if you are shipping materials like a microscope, you can use that $500 development grant to ship that to AACC. And then, as I said, AACC will assume the cost to ship it back to you. Do items need to arrive to you by June 5th or just to leave us by June 5th? They should arrive to us by June 5th. I'm going to look at that internally. We may be able to give you a few more days, but we just want to make sure we have enough time to note that we have everybody's boxes and that everybody's accounted for. So it would be arrived to us by June 5th, and if that changes, we will let you know. But I would like to shoot for that for now, so we have enough time to make sure we have everything set going into the event. Okay. At this time, and then there is a question here about can we access the slideshow later? Yes, this is being recorded, and you will have access to a link to the webinar as well as the slides and the questions that are in chat, and that will go out following the webinar. That will be sent to you directly from Maytech, who is hosting this for us, and we'll also post it to our website so you can access the event website and access this webinar. Okay. There's a question here on the display information form and possibly having an extended deadline if needed. If you can contact us offline about that, we're trying to get as much information as we can by May 8th, but if you're not able to pull all those elements together, at least having a real sense of what's going to go with you, do let us know and we can work with your team individually. Okay. And then I see, and thank you Maytech, they're saying you'll receive an email by Monday with the recording link and a PDF of the slide presentation. So at this point I didn't know if anyone had any additional burning questions that they wanted to ask through raising their hand and we would try this through the microphone, or if they were just comfortable putting it to chat. So I'll look and see if anybody's raising their hand. Okay, I don't have anyone raising their hands, so let's see. Okay. And let me see if there are any other questions in chat then. Okay. I see a question here. Should we have 2 prototypes, one for camp, and I'm assuming, then it says one for camp. I'm assuming that means one for the reception. Susan or Kim, do you want to address that in terms of number of prototypes and what would be needed at the actual boot camp versus the reception?
They would not need a prototype. They would need it at the reception and not at the boot camp. So one would be enough.
Okay, thank you. And then there was a clarifying question. Can we fill up the 48 by 36 trifold poster board area with a poster we bring with us? Yes, absolutely you can do that, and then you can just affix it on site to what we provide you, so it'll stand up on site at your table. If that doesn't answer your question, do let me know and I'll see if I can clarify further. Okay. If we are going to have a video on a loop, is it okay to have someone outside of our team assist? I don't see a problem with that. Susan or Kim, do you see any issue with that?
No, I don't.
Nope, that's fine.
Okay, then yes, you can certainly go outside of your team to assist you with putting your video on a loop. And here's a good one, and I'll put this to Susan and Kim. So how can we display results from a project in development?
Well, we're hopeful that you have some results. I'm guessing for your projects we asked about, what the problem was, what the solution was, and kind of what you do. So we're kind of thinking about that as, what is the solution to this problem?
Yeah, what sort of research did you do to lead you to this solution that you proposed? So it doesn't have to be hard data, just kind of lessons learned, aspects that influence your proposed solution, more along that line, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Okay, I see a question. Are chemicals allowed for the reception if it is integral to our prototype? And that's why we need your display information forms. We've been told as long as we can get those through the proper security means ahead of time, so it wouldn't be something you could bring in with you. It would need to be something an AACC representative puts through their loading dock with their more robust, I guess, screening measures for lack of a better term, and so they have more advanced notice on that. I've been told we can do that, but we need to know the nature of the chemicals and what they are on the form to make sure that's all approved ahead of time. So if you can put that on your form, or if you know that now and could even email us offline with that information, we can take that to our contact on the Hill. So we've been told it's really a matter of what it is, and if they have enough notice and can get it in advance, then it's something that we've been told they can do. So that's a very good question, and one of the reasons why we're asking as early as we can for the information on what you can bring, because they need to look at it as case by case to make sure it's allowable. And I think there was a kind of a follow-up question to that. Can we bring a sample of pond water to display? And it has organisms in it. We've raised this again, and they've said as long as they have kind of a more concrete description of what exactly is being brought in, that we can allow that to occur. So again, if you can send me that information, we will walk it through the security protocol person. But we have made them aware that we would most likely have chemicals and or water samples, which may not be something they want going through the front door, but they will allow us to bring in as long as we give them enough advance notice on what is coming and it's hand walked over by somebody that's been pre-authorized to present it to them. Okay. Let's see. Susan or Kim, they want to know, can we use help with making our video? Can we use part of the $500 to pay for someone to assist us with making the video if we want to do a video element to our display?
Yes. Yep, we think that's fine.
Okay. And then there's a clarification for the trifold. Can a conventional 36 by 48 scientific poster be mounted on the trifold, or does it need to be separated into 3 sections? It is a board that does fold at the sections. I think you could still mount it, but then you would have, in order for it to kind of stand up on the table, it would have those lines. So you may want to think about separating it, but I have actually seen it done where somebody has mounted the traditional poster on it and it's looked okay. So I don't know that that's I don't know if Susan or Kim, you want to add to that at all?
Well, I just want to make sure that when you're talking about a scientific poster, that it is not dense. Remember that when you are talking to a Hill audience, you're really talking to people who don't necessarily have a science background. So your poster really needs to be clear, concise, and to the point, and not so much for other scientists.
Any text you have on there, and I'll just add to Susan, make sure it's big. We don't want small text, just paragraphs upon paragraphs. Make it very visually and aesthetically appealing and framed for a lay person.
Yeah, and one of the things we say in the guidelines is you want to be able to view it from at least 5 feet away. So they don't have to be right on top of it, with their glasses right on the tip of their nose to be able to read what's on there. So again, going with what Kim and Susan have said about dense text. I have a question here to Susan. Somebody's inquiring about who are the judges for the challenge.
The judges for the challenge will be our presenters. They will be part of the judges for the boot camp.
Great, thank you. And thank you to the comment in the chat box. Anne shares with us that Marcia McNutt's March 6th editorial in Science speaks beautifully to effective science communication. So there's a resource you might want to consider as well as you're thinking about pulling together your displays.
Ellen, I have a question for everybody.
Sure.
How many of them are bringing their industry community partner along with them? Can they raise their hands or?
Yes. So if you are bringing a community or industry partner with your team, can you raise your hand so we can get a sense of how many of you may be planning to do so? I don't see any hands raised.
Either. Okay. Okay.
All right.
So it may be those that are required to attend. Again, those folks are certainly welcome to attend.
Yeah, we have.
They just have to pay their own way. So maybe
they're not sure yet. Maybe that's part of it.
Yes, and I do see a comment in the box that we're hopeful, but we're not sure yet.
Right. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. To that end, I don't see any other questions at the chat box at this time. But Susan or Kim or Ken, did you have anything that you wanted to relay or any questions you wanted to ask to the group? And I'll just put out a final call for questions before we move to closing the webinar and going to the evaluation survey.
No, Ellen, I just think that this boot camp is going to be a great experience, not only for the teams but for us, and it's been a lot of fun putting it together. So we really hope you enjoy your time in DC, and the boot camp is worth your while.
Yeah, no, I just want to second and echo what Susan just said. We look forward to everyone coming to DC. And I hope that everybody is ready and have their innovations hats on. So get prepared.
And we're gonna learn a lot along with you, since this is our pilot year, and so we really need you to teach us and to tell us how things proceed and how they go for you, and so we'll be learning a lot.
Yes, and to that end, do contact us with any questions, any concerns, any clarifications, any suggestions that you have, so as we hopefully move forward with offering this challenge in the future. That these are things we can incorporate. As Susan said, we're learning right alongside with you. We're just as excited about this opportunity, and we're very we greatly look forward to meeting all of you. I have Ken's contact information up on the screen. He's your main point of contact, though any of us are happy to address questions. But please refer to Ken and to the website. We'll be posting updates there and a fuller agenda as soon as we finish fleshing that out. And before we officially close, I wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind staying on the line and completing a very, very brief, it's literally 4 questions of an evaluation survey for this webinar, since this is also a new offering, so we can help determine how we can improve this as well as a means to orient you to the boot camp. So with that, I would again like to thank you for participating and say on behalf of NSF and AACC that, again, we look forward to meeting you in June, and we congratulate you on being selected as one of the 10 winning teams. And at this point, I would like to ask Maytech to go ahead and launch the webinar survey, and that concludes today's webinar. Thank you all.
At this time, I'm going to launch the link for the survey that will allow us to report back to our sponsor, the National Science Foundation, about the impact of these webinars. We ask that participants take a moment to complete the survey.